Yeah, welcome back on stage 2. I'm very much looking forward to the presentation of Mark Hembury from NeoXam on the topic developing a data strategy is no longer optional, it is a must-have. Mark Hembury is head of sales at NeoXam for the DACH region. And prior to joining NeoXam, Mark held the positions of head of sales at SIX Financial Information and managing director at Thomson Reuters in Germany and Switzerland. Mark holds a Bachelor of Science in German and Business Administration from the University of Aston in Birmingham. And just let me add, Mark, that we have a long-standing friendship, and this dates back to the date when Chelsea Football Club was still unknown. Yeah, far before Abramovich came along. We were just in the backstage. We were just joking on. He was teasing me with the defeat of Bayern Munich women's soccer against Chelsea. So Mark is the one who is a supporter of a team in bad times and in good. And I'm really happy to have you here, Mark. The stage is yours. Thank you for coming.
So thanks so much, Alexis, for the very warm introduction and a very warm welcome. I much appreciate your kind words. And indeed, yes, so we know each other for a very long time. I value our friendship very much, despite the difference in allegiances regarding soccer. And yes, Chelsea over that time have transformed themselves into, may I say, one of at least the premier European clubs. And this season's going quite well, in particular in the Champions League. But more of that perhaps the next time, in particular when we get to the virtual bar or coffee break together. And it's a good afternoon from myself and welcome from NeoXam to all of the participants in our presentation this afternoon. We're extremely happy to have you with us, and thank you very much for taking the time to listen to some of our messages. As Alexis said, my name's Mark Hembury. I'm heading up the business development and sales in the DACH region together with Liechtenstein and CEE. And I'm very proud on behalf of NeoXam to say that we're a sponsor of the DKF21, an extremely important congress and event for us and for the industry. And we're very happy to be able to share today some of our insights on key themes and trends in the realm of data management, how we see them and how our customers are engaging with us around some key topics. Perhaps just a short introduction after I've gone through the agenda. We'll have a welcome and then talk about some of the themes around data. I'll give a short introduction to NeoXam as a company because some of you might not know us so well so far. I wanted to key in a little bit as well on the topic of data strategy. We often talk about, corporate strategies, business strategies, sales strategies. What's a data strategy? It might make sense in the context of today's presentation just to key in on that theme as well, just to understand and create a common understanding of what a data strategy is and should be. We're going to pick up on an example, a key theme, ESG data. I'll come back to that in a second and also during the presentation today. And then also explain how our NeoXam DataHub as the single point of truth can help all of you, either on the sell side, the buy side, or also the data vendors in assisting with the ESG data, which is a key theme today. And then at the end of the presentation, of course, if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer those. So just a little bit about NeoXam. We're a leading provider of financial market solutions for the buy side and the sell side. The company is headquartered in Paris, but we are globally present. We were created basically in 2014 through the combination of certain assets which were spun out of SunGard, together with some acquisitions which we made from SmartCo. And I would describe ourselves as having an extremely successful 20-year history, but we have the DNA of a startup. Our solutions are fully integrated from front to back, and each of our solutions is best of breed. Our portfolio management system, NeoXam Tracker, for the front office, GP4 as the market-leading investment accounting solution for the back office, NeoXam DataHub as the single point of truth for centralized data management across your enterprise, and all these solutions coupled with NeoXam Impress for digital automated reporting, both for end clients and customers, and, for example, for regulatory reporting alike. So just a little bit of background to us as NeoXam, and be happy to key in on more details whenever anybody would wish. developing a data strategy is no longer optional. It is a must-have. So why do I say that? Well, there's a lot going on around the theme of data. Just have a look at some of the hot topics which have grabbed the headlines and the budgets in the past few years. And I'm sure many of these are going to resonate with you. Big data, machine learning, data lakes, data warehousing, predictive analytics, artificial intelligence, business intelligence, cloud platforms. We heard a lot about that this morning in some of the discussions and also the presentations which my colleagues from other firms were holding. Semantic search, natural language programming, NLP, data mining, there's much more. The message here is there's a huge amount of discussion, a huge amount going on in the space of data. And many of these data themes, of course, relate very directly and very clearly to the continuing focus and the challenges which we all have in financial services, which are not changing from the past. You know, mitigating risk, enabling customers to gain a competitive edge, improving customer service and retention, and of course, driving business growth. And in order to achieve these goals, it's imperative for you today to create a data strategy, to set a foundation for anything your business would like to do related to data. Because data, from wherever it may come, and whichever insight it might provide, itself is simply a fundamental resource to help you achieve your business objectives in alignment with your corporate strategy. So what is a data strategy? Well, one can find, of course, a multitude of varying descriptions of this term in the internet, and I'm sure that each of us has got our own idea of this, but perhaps we'll start with this a description. A data strategy being the acquisition, organization, analysis, and delivery of data in support of your business objectives. I think that summarizes it pretty nicely and pretty succinctly. Or how your company will collect, store, manage, share, and use data. And here again, think through your lens this afternoon whilst I'm talking. Think of how you're approaching data and how a data strategy would be relevant and pertinent to yourselves. So in a nutshell, of course, people, processes, and technology. So what your employees require, so they're empowered to use data, the processes that are behind that in order to ensure the data is accessible and of the highest possible quality, and technology that will enable the storage, the sharing, and the analysis and the dissemination of that data. And as data becomes more valuable to your business, and the volume of data produced by financial market sources and your own institutions internally continues to increase, having a data strategy is no longer optional. It simply is a must-have. And at the end of the day, you need to be able to unlock and extract the greatest value from the data which you purchase or which you might be creating yourselves. And at the same time, you'll be wanting to optimize the cost of that data and the deployment of your resources whilst you use the data. So let's take the example, a pertinent one, of ESG data. Again, a big topic and theme already this morning from many of my colleagues in the discussions, both in the presentations and also in the roundtable discussions. ESG data. Well, there was a question posed this morning in one of the sessions actually as to, did one think that ESG was going to be more a topic of the future, or is it a topic really of today? Well, we at NeoXam would say environmental, social, and governmental data is now completely mainstream. The themes around ESG and society at large are definitely no longer niche, and the interest in sustainable investments shown by private customers, by institutional investors, and asset managers alike has increased exponentially in the past years. According to research by PricewaterhouseCoopers, published in the autumn of last year, assets in sustainable investments in Europe are set to reach a level of 7.6 trillion euros by the year 2025. And that will equate to a threefold increase in assets under the ESG banner. catapulting the share of the European fund market for sustainable investments from currently 15% to a ginormous 57%. This development, PwC goes on to say, will be marked both by newly launched funds, of course, because there will be many more entrants into the market and a greater demand for such investment products. And also, of course, existing funds who may well change their focus in order to put that redirected focus onto the field of sustainability. Fund managers surely will place the sustainable theme in the center of the strategy itself for their investments, or they might reflect ESG considerations at least as one component of the investment decision-making process for a particular asset going forward. So the key message here for yourselves is whether you're on the sell side or on the buy side, or whether you're a data vendor, you'll need to understand much more clearly how and which ESG data to source, how to comprehend that data much more succinctly, and how to use that data behind that headline and banner of ESG. Thus, you require a data strategy also in this area of ESG. So what are the key pain points which our customers bring to ourselves when they talk about ESG data, and what are the implications for you if you do nothing? Firstly, the sourcing. There are many highly specialized players in this field currently today. You're going to need to define which data you want to collect and from where. And you no doubt want to ensure at the same time that you mitigate the possibility of sourcing the same or similar data from multiple venues over and above, of course, your own requirements internally for business contingency or for regulatory requirements. You'll want to tailor those data feeds to your user requirements, and you want to optimize the purchasing fees for that data and reduce the cost of day-to-day maintenance, as I mentioned before. Now, we all know, and this was a topic as well in some of the discussions this morning, you can't take advantage of raw data without converting it into a usable format. In order to extract such value, your data has to be actionable. And if it's coming from manifold sources, that data needs to be collected, cleansed, and converted into a consistent format, which makes it possible for you, your internal customers, and also your own clients to use. So a key topic as well, which our customers talk to us about, is the normalization of that data. Yeah. And in one of the conversations just before I started, there was the topic of standards, talking about standards, market standards, regulatory standards. There is a lack of universal standards for ESG data. It's still an extremely fragmented area. No surprise, and that's perhaps not new news because it is a fairly fresh topic, but just want to underline the fact that it makes it more difficult to compare data points from different vendors. What kind of companies are providing information to the market? How are the individual corporates being rated in the various areas pertinent to ESG? Whilst the volumes of the data in this respect provided by the sources are increasing day by day, the key issue, as already mentioned, is that the lack of relevant standards for these data sets in the market make it very difficult to make direct comparisons. And at the end of the day, there are thousands of data points to choose from, which are relevant. The providers of the ESG data, they use different methodologies, they have varying calculations, they have different algorithms and also resulting data points, so that a coherent and objective and consistent understanding of the rating data and general ESG data alike related to individual entities is sometimes extremely difficult to determine. So which data points are truly relevant and which perhaps are not? Data quality. Self-reporting from the corporates and from the individual entities, there might be some biases in that data. ESG is a new story, a new topic for many reporting entities, and there is perhaps also still a lack of knowledge and expertise in that field. If one researches the internet, you'll find that there are over 350 different ESG accounting standards globally to choose from and to adopt. That doesn't make the topic and the theme any easier. Of course, probably the best known being today the SASB, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, SASB, but there are many more which corporates can choose from, and that creates a certain level of complexity in understanding what exactly the data which is reported, what it means, and how transparent and how clean is that data. There's also a question of the traceability and explanation of the data, the raw data, but also the derived scores. How were they created and with which quality, as I mentioned, in the underlying data. And this being a relatively new topic, there may only be a short time series, of course, when some quantitative analysis would certainly require a longer historical view. And last but not least, as I mentioned before, and some of my colleagues as well earlier today, little regulation so far, but more to come. It's hard to have a one-size-fits-all solution if there's little regulation in the market. And companies, as you know, are scrambling to put their own standards together in order to create some kind of standardization. Admittedly, it is true that in the EU environment, we are certainly further ahead than in other geographies. There is the EU taxonomy regulation, as we know, the sustainability disclosure regulation, and of course the EU climate benchmarks regulation, not to mention the SRD2, which went live in 2019. But more regulation is coming across the board and in more geographies, and that will mean it's going to be a very relevant topic, both for the corporates and also for the asset managers alike. And if you take all these parts and these pieces together and look at the overall environment more holistically, it's clear that you're going to require a data strategy overall, but also for sourcing ESG data. How and which data do you want to source? How are you going to normalize and model that data? How are you going to determine and monitor the quality, both the accuracy, the timeliness, the completeness of those data sets? You'll want to analyze that data. Do you want it aggregated? Do you want scorings? Do you need it also for reporting externally and also internally? You might want to link the data to your IBOR, your investment book of record. You might want to link it to the ABOR. You might want to link it to reference data. Who are you going to distribute the data to, both internally and also externally? Is it for decision making? Is it for reporting? Is it for your customers? Is it for risk? Is it for compliance? And how are you going to manage that cost in a world of increasing fees? Of course, we all know that internal budget constraints. And you might be thinking as well, and need to know, you might even have internal data sources which you've not been able to source so far, and find these within the enterprise. There might be internal sources producing data in the context of ESG, which could be better deployed and also shared with other groups across your firm. And again, in that case, you'll need to go through the same process of finding it, collecting the data, storing it, cleansing it, disseminating that data to the appropriate clients and customers. So that's what we talk to our customers about, and that's why we talk about the NeoXam DataHub as being the single point of truth, because with the demand for ESG and for broader alternative data, increasing day by day, the challenges are no less for all of us in the industry, and enabling that efficient collection from various sources, the normalization of that data, and extracting, the value from that data is simply the foundation for a higher quality and the ability for yourselves to reference, cross-reference, and access the data much more seamlessly. And you'll require, of course, the consistency of data from the front office to the back, and as I mentioned before, coherent processes for collecting and sharing the data across the firm. And that's why our customers say to us that central data source and repository is simply extremely important for them, and it's key, because that repository eradicates the data silos, it improves that ease of access, and it creates overall a greater collaboration across the enterprise. the partners you choose and the technology they deploy, and I repeat some of the sentences here which some of my colleagues have also mentioned before, that will have a significant impact on the success of your data strategy. And since financial institutions are recognizing increasingly that data is a strategic asset, you're going to have to ensure that you're able to seamlessly act upon the data and the value you can extract from it to make and take much better qualified decisions. That's where we see ourselves as NeoXam at the cutting edge between customer business requirements and technology. Our solutions, as I mentioned before, support both the buy side and the sell side in successfully managing such data challenges to contain costs, to respect compliance, to better service your customers, and also to drive your business growth. And with that single source and single point of truth within your data strategy, NeoXam DataHub is the central repository and that user-oriented data management tool for the ESG data, in extension of the other data sets which you have, both sourced by your firm internally and also externally. So again, the possibility to collect, cleanse and store, enrich and to share those key ESG data sets, both internally and with your customers, and to optimize the return of investment on your data sourcing fees. We provide in this context the best of both worlds. We have a modular structure in the DataHub, so we offer you full flexibility so that you can subscribe to individual business models, which you see here represented on the chart on the slide, and yet you also have the capability to configure your business rules according to your needs and to your workflows. Yet we also deliver DataHub with standard services, including a large variety of off-the-shelf connectors and connectivity with leading data providers. And we're working currently as well to extend that suite of connectors with other ESG data providers in order to complete and complement the offerings which we have today. We can offer coverage of all asset classes and related data sets which may be pertinent both today and also in the future. And we offer with our solution the capability for yourselves, of course, to create new data fields and thus also extend upon the sources which you already extract data from and create greater insight. So you have full traceability as well and a full audit trail of the data which you would be using for ESG and for others. We secure by blending content and also various sources, a centralized golden copy for all of the users to access. Again, the single point of truth. Again, a colleague spoke about that this morning in one of his presentations, and I fully agree with that. That blending aspect is becoming more and more important for our customers, and we assist them in doing exactly that. And at the same time, we allow you to monitor and to optimize the data costs in your sourcing so that you have the greatest return of investment, which you're able to achieve through the DataHub itself. So we assist you in sourcing, so multiple vendors for the ESG data, in the modeling and the normalization and the linking of that data. You have the possibility to check and set up individual KPIs for the data quality, individual KPIs for the data sources themselves, or also for the data which you yourselves create through the DataHub. You can distribute the data exactly to those consumers, both internally and externally, who you would like to receive it, be those applications or, of course, humans themselves, and the ability to review and monitor costs. And as I said, in the future, we're looking also at how we can better assist our clients, perhaps in the aggregation of these data sources, and also in developing scoring models which they can use off the shelf, in addition to any scoring models which they would like to create, in their own context. And reporting would be a big topic as well going forward in this field. So having that data strategy and deploying the DataHub as part of that, you'll reduce your operational risk by deploying clean data. You will reduce your time to market with the new ESG data sets, accelerating your business innovation for the products which you want to bring to market and to bring to your customers themselves. whilst easing integration of new business lines which you might be thinking of introducing in the field of ESG, sustainability, or alternative product lines. And at the same time, very key, optimizing the ROI and the cost of data through the data cost module, which we offer as well through our DataHub. So, developing a data strategy is definitely no longer optional. It is a must-have. We use today one example of a very key field, which people are talking about a lot, and that is ESG. So without a data strategy or with a data strategy, the question is, do you want to be part of the ESG story? So thanks very much for your attention. Those are just some thoughts and themes around data strategy. Alexis, over to you, and thank you everybody for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark, for this excellent presentation. And this was exactly to the point. When I started my career 23 years ago, it was all about content is king. Yeah? Then it was collecting more and more data. We've seen plenty of new vendors, and this has shifted to context is king now. So we have far too much information, and we need to reduce it to set the context. Yeah, and see what's relevant. Yeah, thank you very much.
That's right.
We have plenty of time for Q&A, but unfortunately, you were so precise that none of the watchers has asked a question. Oh, there it is. Oh, sorry. It starts here. Yeah, okay, this is just a hint. Yeah, I'll take this one at the end, the expo. Here it is. Okay. Thank you, Mark. Great. Yeah. Victor, thank you. So these are just, I mean, I would be interested in different pricing models. I mean, we've seen over the years, we have seen vendors changing their pricing models from pay as you play towards assets under management, towards trading volume. So there's different, or all you can eat licenses. So what do you see here? Is there a trend towards a certain business model? I mean, obviously everyone wants to have a software as a service or a recurring revenue approach, but how can you slice and dice the cost of data?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, Alexis, and that cropped up a little bit earlier in the day where some of the discussion with the data vendors was taking place. And as we see, there is a trend as well for the data vendors also to be putting some of their services or more and more of their services as well into the cloud, just as our customers are asking us, and we can provide that, to provide, services, as a service, be it platform as a service, be it infrastructure as a service, or be it software as a service in the cloud too. And I think it is, and that came out in one of the discussions earlier today, it is still a bit of an open question as to what kind of commercial model many of the data vendors are going to want to use going forward. As far as we're concerned as NeoXam, we see ourselves as a neutral and objective player, between the data vendors and our customers. We want to partner on both sides of the equation. We give, of course, our clients the ability with our data cost monitor to understand what they are sourcing and what they are paying for that, and how basically they might be able to optimize, the sourcing of data for the benefit of their own, I would say, strategy internally, and also in this environment of, a heightened cost pressure. So, we're very interested as well to hear from the data vendors how they feel they will go forward with their commercial models in order to be able to reflect that for our customer base. And that's why I say very openly, it's key for us, and that's how we see ourselves as partners on both sides of the equation, to understand the vendors and where they're going and to be part of their thought process, and also to understand our customers and what they are looking for from us as a capability, and to be able to bring those aspects and that finesse in our solutions to the fore, so that they can use those to greater value. So that wasn't an exact answer to the question in the sense of, what's going to happen. Will we see the trend? We see it as an open question. We see the data vendor commercial model still being developed. We see the licensing models also from exchanges still being developed. There's a lot of open questions there, and that gives us also, as partners in this community, all of us here today at the DKF, let's talk about these kind of topics as well and share some ideas how that could be created as a kind of a community thought process going forward.
Yeah, from a commercial perspective, consumers might diversify across vendors, not to be dependent on a single one, because if the vendor changes the business model, it could be different. Then we have a question coming. Sorry, Mark, can we take this one?
Please.
From Hans-Peter Neuhaus. Yeah, hi. A data warehouse is certainly a great value add, but how much internal effort is it for me as a mid-sized bank to maintain it?
Thanks very much, Peter, for the question, and good afternoon to you as well. Great to have you in the session this afternoon. That's a very good question. Data management, a solution. Often, one thinks, that's a huge story, and that's something which is going to bind resources, is going to take up project capacity, and is also going to make sure that other projects perhaps are pushed back within the organization and not being able to brought to the front end and to the fore. Well, we can clearly state with NeoXam DataHub, we have customers also in the DACH region who are running the DataHub with one resource. Yeah, so it's a service and solution which we can offer, which is really focused on the needs of the customer themselves, as I mentioned before, fully flexible from the configuration, and also the flexibility to be customized according to the story and the needs of the customers themselves. And it's not heavy, so that customers have to take a lot of resource in order to implement the solution or to run it. In fact, we've developed also implementation cases where we can bring the service to the customer in a very seamless and succinct form with minimum implementation and integration extent. And as I said, we have clients who are running this with very lean resources and are very, very happy to be using the DataHub. So thanks for the question. We can also bring some references for that if anybody's interested in the audience today, but not heavy. It's something which customers can configure, and we've had great success with that. So thank you, Peter, for the question. I hope that answers the question this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. We might have 2 more minutes and two questions. First of all, excellent presentation, Mark, coming from Tao Hui. Hi, thank you for this comment. The question comes from Dana Hanby. So many data vendors, how do you select the vendors you're working with? Are you also assessing data quality of the vendors?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we basically assess the vendors according to the requirements of our customers. So again, we as NeoXam, we're a neutral party to the story. We work very closely together with data vendors, and we work very closely together with the customers in order to understand their requirements. Data quality is an important part. That's why we offer the opportunity for our clients within the DataHub to measure that and to set KPIs for data quality themselves. We can do that too. And of course, we're interested to understand, how data quality is understood. I know from the past, from my discussions with clients, that it is a very broad topic. And, everybody, as it were, ourselves perhaps, but the vendors and also the clients have a different understanding of what really quality means. Let's park that for today, because we probably need a separate session on that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, there is the opportunity for every customer to set those KPIs within DataHub to measure the data quality which is pertinent to themselves and to their business use cases. Mm-hmm. We're reviewing the market. We see that there are further sources of ESG data out there and being accessed by our clients. It's our wish to understand from the market where the focus has been placed so that we can bring standardized connectors to the fore. The customer always has the ability to write his or her own.
Yeah, thank you. And last questions, 2 minutes left, coming from Dan Solek. Thanks, Mark. Great presentation and good to see you. Could you please elaborate a little more on license, lineage, and usage tracking?
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan. Great to see you as well, even if it's the virtual way today. Yeah, so it's important for customers, and in particular in a new field such as with ESG or alternative data, to understand where the data has come from and what is happening to the data. So what I was trying to allude to here is that there might well be new context, as Alexis mentioned before, which a customer wants to derive from the data, and we offer the ability for you as a client to understand what changes or extensions or added value has been put onto particular data sets in that process, so that you again can understand what was the raw data which you took in and how has that been perhaps converted or extended to a further data set within your organization. So you have a complete traceability with the data lineage there through the DataHub, and also an audit trail of who has done what on the data in order to understand what might have been changed or perhaps extended with added value. So that's what I was trying to bring across. I hope that answers your question. If not, we can definitely touch base the next couple of days. That'd be great anyway, and have a chat about that.
Thank you very much, Mark. This
Thanks.
was a nice presentation, and this perfectly fits to the next session. We have a sponsors meetup, and I would ask you to stop by the vendors. Hopefully at the NeoXam booth. This is in the bottom left section of your screen. There's Expo. That you can just click and stop by, and maybe you, Mark, will see the audience at your booth. So we have 20 or 25 minutes, and after that, we will have a session here on stage 2. This is really a very interesting session. It's a must-see session for all women, and I will ask for permission to join the DKF women. It's all about role models. We have great women talking about their impressive careers and being role models to the younger generation. And I am really curious to see that. This will start at 4:45. And so long, just please see the expo and stop by the vendors. Thanks to all vendors. Without them, this wouldn't take place. And so it's very important for us that they have their leads, they see their clients, and please support us and go to the expo. Thank you, Mark, and seeing you later at the expo.
Look forward to it. Thanks so much. Thanks again, everyone.